So here we have the Modern Horizons 3 Tricky Terrain Commander deck, the Collector's Edition. So this one has a bunch of the new, I guess, Ripple foil cards in it. There's one card in particular in here that I really wanted to get. You may be able to guess which one it is, but rather than buy the single, I figured it would be more cost effective to just get the whole deck. So that's what I did here. And we're going to take a look through this, and I'm going to do some kind of on-the-fly upgrades as we look through it. I have a stack of cards off to the side here. We're going to open this up and look through it, and then as we go, I'll be slotting those cards into the deck and kind of do an on-the-fly deck tech for you. So let's start opening this one up right here, the Tricky Terrain Commander Deck Collector's Edition. I guess these are the commanders here. In this one, I don't think that you get the collector booster sampler thing like you do with the commander decks, the regular commander decks. We'll see. I guess if you did, it would be in here. Oh, you do. All right, well, we're going to open that up too. So let's put this off to the side. What else have we got in here? Some documentation, or well, this is a big one. What is on here? I wonder if this is special with the collector one at all. Probably not. You get that. A foil deck box. A regular life counter. Well, a very generic life counter. You get some shiny tokens. There's the deck. Very shiny. Let's open this up though. Collector booster sample pack. Maybe we'll get something cool. Voted most likely to bring back banding. Eladomri Corvectol. Well, did get a mythic. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm happy with that one. And a Marionette Apprentice. Alright, that could potentially even go in the deck. Look at the deck though. Popular Magic formats. So are all of these cards Ripple foil? We'll find out now. We have Omo, Queen of Vesuva. Interesting. So this is, I guess this is the face commander then. This is 3 mana, Simic colors. It's a 1/5. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and up to 1 target creature. Each land with an everything counter on it is every land in addition to its other types. Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it is every creature type. That's pretty cool. You can do some fun stuff with that. Eoti? Mohg Ancient? There's the secondary commander. Okay, so those are our commanders. Decide which one to use. So yeah, it looks like all the cards are Ripple foil. We have a Fog Bank here. Right away, I'm going to take this card out. I think a better card to play rather than Fog Bank would be probably a Hashep Oasis right there. So we're going to put that in to start off with. We have an Urza's Power Plant. Do we have all of the Urza lands? Power Plant, Tower, Mine. Is there Cave? No Cave. There's the Urza lands. These are very good. They're quite powerful lands. You get a lot of mana with them. But rather than drop them on the floor like that, I'm actually going to take these out as well. I'm going to replace these 3 cards with 3 more copies of Hashep Oasis. I think that would make the deck at least a little bit better. There's a Satyr Wayfinder here, also Wonderful Foil. I think a better card than this one right here. We could just replace that one with another Hashep Oasis. I think the deck's looking quite a bit better already, actually. Arcane Denial is a really good card. Has some value there too, you know, for just a common. But rather than the Arcane Denial, what we're going to play in place of that is a Hashep Oasis. Simic Guildgate. You don't really want to be playing Guildgates usually unless you're playing a gate deck, so we're going to take that out and we're going to swap it with a Hashep Oasis right here. Treasure Cruise is very good for card advantage, played in a lot of commander decks. We don't really want that though. We're going to swap that out with another Hashep Oasis. A Soul Ring, I mean obviously yes you want Soul Ring, it goes in literally every deck, but actually in the deck that I'm building right here, we don't even want Soul Ring. I'm just going to put another Hashep Oasis instead of that. There's a Basilisk Gate. What does this do? It's a gate. Is this a reprint? Creature gets +X. I think it is. Anyway, I'm not so big on gates in this deck. Instead of this one, I'm going to play Hash Up Oasis. Feast Within is very good removal. I play this in several of my decks, so to get in this Ripple Foil is pretty sweet. Don't really want it in this one, though. Instead of this, I'm going to play another Hash Up Oasis. Tatyova. I remember when this card was new. This was actually quite an expensive uncommon out of the original Dominaria set. It's being reprinted a few times at this point. I think at Common and Dominaria Remastered, so not a whole lot of value now. It is still a good card, but I don't really want it in this deck. Instead, I think it would be better to play a Hash Up Oasis. So we're going to put that in right there. A Propaganda. It just kind of slows the game down. Like, you know, stops your opponent from attacking you. So I'm not really into that. Instead of that, I would rather just play a Hash Up Oasis, I think. Simic Growth Chamber. The bounce lands, you know, they're good, but I could just play Hash Up Oasis instead of that. That would be a big improvement, I think. Floriferous Vine Wall. Is this also out of Dominaria? Or I think Dominaria United, I want to say. I think I remember playing that in Dominaria United Limited, but rather than this one, I actually think we could probably swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. So we're going to put that in right there. Arcane Signet, like, we took the Soul Ring out, so if we're taking Soul Ring out, we're probably taking out the Arcane Signet as well. So instead of Arcane Signet, I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis. Desert of the Indomitable, it is a desert, which is pretty cool. You know what other card is a desert, right? But we're actually going to swap that out for this card right here, Hash Up Oasis. Now this next one, this is the card that I wanted out of the deck. I'm not sure if you could have guessed it or not, but yeah, rather than just buying the Ripple Foil Hash Up Oasis, I just bought the whole deck instead. This, actually, I'm going to leave this one in the deck right here. We're going to leave that right up there. I'm not going to swap that out at all. I think that one fits in the deck quite well. March from Velisvel. Is this I think this is a new card. Choose a non-basic land type. Each land you control of that type becomes a copy of target creature. Copy of target creature you control until end of turn gains haste till end of turn. That seems really powerful. Huh. Yeah. I'm not really into that though. Instead of that, I would rather probably just play Hash Up Oasis. So we're going to do that. Wonderscape Sage. It's a 1/3 flying for 2. You can tap it, return a land you control to its owner's hand, and draw a card. Then discard a card unless that land had a non-basic land type. Okay, so you can like reuse landfall triggers and stuff, I guess. I don't know. Not really sure about that one. I think probably instead of that, I'm just going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Copy land. I think this is one of the fancier cards, right? You can have copy land under the battlefield as a copy of any land on the battlefield, except its enchantment in addition to its other types. So probably I would want to have that common as a copy of Hash Up Oasis, but honestly, I could just take it out and play a Hash Up Oasis instead. That is honestly just better, I think. Desert Warfare. I remember seeing this card before. There's a lot of words on it. When you sack a desert, and whenever a desert is put into your graveyard from your hand or library, put it onto the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 5 or more deserts, create that many 1/1 red, green, and white sand warrior creature tokens that gain haste. That seems really powerful, actually. Definitely will put that in my Hazazon deck, which means I'm probably taking it out of this deck to put in there. So if I'm taking it out of this deck, I'm going to swap it out for a Hash Up Oasis. Trench Post, a Locust. Tap for a colorless, 3-tap target player mills a card for each Locust you control. I'm not really going to go with the Locust theme in this deck. I'm going with deserts instead, so I'm just going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Sage of the Maze. 1/3 for 3. Tap to add 2 mana. Tap until end of turn. Target land you control becomes an XX citizen with haste in addition to its other types, where X is twice the number of gates you control. Activate as a sorcery. Tap an untapped gate you control. Untap this. Interesting. Do some cool stuff with gates, but once again, this deck it's not so much about locusts or gates, it's about deserts. So we're putting in this Hash Up Oasis. This is a desert. You can tap for a colorless, tap sack a creature, add 1 mana of any color, or X and 2, and tap sack a desert, exile a creature from your graveyard. So you eternalize it, you come it back, bring it back as like a 4/4. It is a desert, but this other desert right here is much better. I just play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Rampant Gargantua I think is really cool. I like it. I like frogs. You know, Frogantua is pretty sweet, but Wait, what does that say? Gets +10/+10 for each player who lost the game. Trample. When deals combat damage to a player, I can put... Wait, you mill that many cards, put a number of lands, forming them on the battlefield tapped. That's cool, but I'm going to play a Hashep Oasis instead of it. Sunken Palace is a cave. Okay, so we got all the land types here. Tap to add a blue, enters the battlefield tapped, exile 7 from your graveyard, add blue. When you spend this mana to cast a spell or activate an ability, copy it. That's pretty cool. I do like that land, but I like this one better, so I'm going to play this instead of it. We're going to play Hashep Oasis, a Horizon of Progress. Tap to pay a life, add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Okay, so it's like a rainbow land. 3 tap, put a land from your hand into play tapped, or 1 tap, sack it, draw a card. Okay. It's very Kamigawa-esque. Not really into Kamigawa with this deck, probably more like Amonkhet themed. So it'll probably be more thematic just to play a Hashep Oasis instead of that, I think. Planar Nexus is every non-basic land type, so it is a desert. Add a colorless or 1 tap, add 1 of any color. That seems very powerful. It's almost there, but it's not quite as powerful as this one, so I would rather just play a Hashep Oasis instead of it. Aggressive Biomancy, let's see, XX, green-blue, create X tokens that are copies of target creature you control, except they have, when this creature enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 creature you don't control. So it's one of those kind of, there's a bunch of different cards like this. This one, they fight. That's the special thing about it, but it's cool, but honestly, I'll just play a Hashep instead of that, so I'll play Hashep Oasis there. Talon Gates of Madara. This is a gate, enters the battlefield. When it enters the battlefield, up to 1 target creature phases out. Tap to add a colorless. 1 tap, add 1 mana of each color. 4, put this from your hand onto the battlefield. Wow, that's a really powerful card. Huh. I am going to take that out, though. It's not quite as powerful as this one, so I'm going to play a Hashep instead of that. So that looks like the new rares, I think. So we're back into reprints. Hydroid Krasis is cool, but it's not a Hydra deck. It's a desert deck, so I'm going to play a Hashep instead of that. Terastodon. This was in one of the first Commander decks I ever built. It's still in there, actually. It's a very good card, but not so much into that for this deck. I'm going to play a Hashep Oasis instead of that one. Lair of the Hydra. Yeah, that was great in Standard. I think it's probably played in Pioneer as well, I think. Not really into that for Commander. It's probably decent in Commander, actually, but I think it would be better just play a Hashep Oasis. Nissa, Steward of Elements. Trying to remember what this was originally from. Was it actually from Amonkhet? It might have been from Amonkhet. I don't want this Planeswalker in the deck, though. I'm going to swap that out for a Hashep Oasis. Just 1, though, not 2 Hasheps. Magus of the Candelabra. X, tap on tap X lands. That's kind of perfect for this deck. Not quite as perfect as a Hashep Oasis would be, though, so we're going to put one of those in the deck. A Lumbering Falls. It's a creature land. It comes into play tapped. That's not so great. This land is better because it comes into play untapped, so we'll play a Hashep Oasis instead of that. Blast Zone. It's a removal on a land, but Hashep Oasis is a giant growth on a land, so actually I think that's better for this deck. We're going to play that instead. Apex Devastator that's actually a pretty cool reprint. Do like the foiling on that one. It's not a Cascade deck, though, so I'm going to take that out and put a Hashep Oasis instead. Dreamroot Cascade. I've taken out a lot of the blue from the deck, so I probably don't even need this, actually. It would be better just to play a Hashep Oasis. Summer Dismissal, it's a good counter spell, but I don't really want so many counters in here. Instead, I would just play a Hashep Oasis. We're going to do that. Yavimaya Coast. Once again, I don't really need the blue here, so we're going to put in a Hashep Oasis instead of that. And still, I don't really need the blue, so I'm going to put in a Hashep Oasis instead of Flooded Grove there. Hour of Promises. This is actually a really good card here because you can search your library for up to 2 land cards, put them into play tapped, and shuffle. Then if you control 3 or more deserts to make some zombies. So you can actually use this to tutor out a Hashep Oasis. But instead of tutoring out a Hashep, I could just replace this with a Hashep. So that's what I'm going to do. Put a Hashep Oasis instead. Ramunap Exuvator. Play lands from your graveyard. I'd rather just play them from my deck or hand, really. So I'm going to put a Hashep Oasis instead of that. Hydra Broodmaster. I don't even know why this card is in here. I'm just taking that out. It's not really on theme or anything, so I'm going to swap that out for a Hashep Oasis. Drown in Dreams. Once again, why is this card in here? It's just like a blue card that does stuff. It's not on theme or anything, so I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Here's another one of these blue lands. I don't need that, so I'm going to swap that for a Hash Up Oasis right here. Vivian Reed is pretty decent. This was big in Standard, I remember. I think this was quite an expensive Planeswalker while it was in Standard. This isn't Standard, though, so I'm going to take it out of the deck and play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth. It makes all of our things forests, but I'm kind of going with a desert theme rather than a forest theme here, though, so I'm going to take that out and put a desert instead. I'm going to use Hash Up Oasis as my desert. Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Here's another new art for it. That's kind of cool. This art, I think this is what, the third art for this card? It's at least the third. Very powerful card, though. You can play extra lands, but I'm just going to take that out and put another land in the deck, though. One thing usually is it's very easy to end up playing too few lands in a deck, so I don't mind taking that one out and just upping the land count a little bit. Mirage Mirror can become a copy of target artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. So that could be a land, but I'm just going to swap it out for another land instead. We're going to play Hash Up. Overflowing Basin, don't need blue. We're going to play this Hash Up Oasis instead. Temple of Mastery, don't need blue. Going to play this Hash Up Oasis instead. Chromatic Lantern. It's basically a mono green deck at this point, so I don't need this either. I'm just going to play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. I do actually like Oblivion Stone. I play this in several of my decks. I like playing this in mono-colored decks as kind of like a catch-all answer to everything. This is a mono-colored deck at this point. I've taken out all of the blue, really, but I actually think I want to up the land count a little bit, and I'm going to cut this to play a Hash Up Oasis. Scute Swarm is cool. It's very good with landfall, but I want to up the land count a little bit more, so I'm going to cut that for a Hash Up Oasis. Overwhelmed Hydra. This is a Hydra that is actually on theme because it cares about how many lands you have. But if I cut the other Hydra, I might as well just cut this one as well. I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis instead of this. Evacuation. Well, I've cut all the blue, so I'm cutting this card. I can't even cast it anymore, so I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis instead of that. Same with Replication Technique. We're going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis, and Finale of Revelation can also be swapped out for a Hash Up Oasis. Mana Reflection is very good. That's actually a cool reprint. I'm happy to see that one. I would like to play this, except I'm going to cut this from the deck and swap it out for a Hash Up Oasis. Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Awesome card. This is banned in... Is this banned in Pioneer, I think? It's banned in something, I'm pretty sure. It was awesome in Standard. Awesome in other formats. Probably awesome in Commander, but we're not going to see it in this deck because I'm cutting it, and I'm going to play Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Same with Curse of the Swine. It's quite good. I play that in some other decks, but I'd rather just play a Hash Up Oasis, so I'm going to swap that out for one of these. Vesuva. There's a little print dot there or something. Anyway. This could be a copy of any land. Actually, if we had a Hash Up Oasis in play, this could be a copy of a Hash Up Oasis, which is pretty cool, but I'd rather just cut that and play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Dark Depths, very combo-y card. If I'm cutting the Vesuva and probably this next card also, I don't think I want the Dark Depths, so I'd rather just play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. And we're going to cut the Thespian Stage as well. I think a Hash Up Oasis would be a better card to play in this deck. Avenger of Zendikar is great in landfall decks. When, you know, decks that want to dump a bunch of lands into play, but I actually think it might be better to just play Hash Up Oasis instead of it. We're going to cut that one there. Seer's Sundial. I'm not really big on this card. I cut that from all of the decks that it comes in that I play, so we're going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Rampaging Balos. This is in my Hazazon deck, so I don't really want to be playing it in both decks just to keep them kind of different, so I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis instead. Expedition Map. This is really cool because you can search up any land, so we could use it to search up a Hash Up Oasis. Instead of doing that, though, I'm just going to take it out of the deck and play a Hash Up Oasis. It's kind of doing the same thing. Hidden Cataract. We don't need this blue land. I'm just going to play Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Hidden Nursery. Comes into play tapped. This card does not come into play tapped. This is better, so I'm going to play Hash Up Oasis right there. We got this Volatile Fault. This is a reprint out of Ixalan, right? Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Don't really want so much land destruction, so instead of that I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis. Growth Spiral, we cut so much blue, so I got to take this card out and just replace it with a Hash Up Oasis. Elvish Rejuvenator, it's alright, but this is one that I cut from pretty much every deck as well, so I'm going to take that out and put in a Hash Up Oasis. Urban Evolution, I think this was this out of what, Gatecrash, I think? Or was it Dragon's Maze? It was a Return to Ravnica block anyway, but that's about the most relevant thing I can say about this card because we're cutting it. And I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis instead. Harmonize, it was great back in, 2014, but 10 years later, you could play something better. I'm just going to swap this out for probably a Hash Up Oasis, I think. Thornwood Falls, it's a tap land and it's blue. I'm just going to play a Hash Up Oasis instead of it. Cloud Post comes into play tapped. I don't want things to come into play tapped. This one comes into play untapped. We'll play a Hash Up Oasis instead. This looks really cool, actually, the Sylvan Scrying. I like how that looks, but in terms of playing, I'd rather just swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. This is one of my favorite cards ever, actually, Acidic Slime. I've talked about this in some other videos, but one of my first ever standard decks that I made, it was like a brew that actually worked, was about Acidic Slime. The idea was to just ramp into Acidic Slime as fast as possible, and then I would play like Restoration Angel, Cloud Shift, and Conjurer's Closet, and just keep on flickering this. So I'd ramp it out, destroy my opponent's land, and keep on flickering it, and destroy all their lands, and win the game that way. It was really fun, actually, but this is not standard, this is Commander. I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis instead, I think. Here's a Pongify, that's actually a really good reprint. Don't need it, though. It's blue, and I've cut all the blue, so I'm going to play a Hash Up Oasis. Same thing, I don't need this. This is a Desert, by the way, but I'm cutting that for a Hash Up Oasis. Skullwinder, it's kind of like a Eternal Witness, right? It's a snake version of it. We could bring a card back from our graveyard. We could actually bring back a Hash Up Oasis after we sacrificed it. But I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Desert of the Mindful, it is a desert, but it's blue, so I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Command Tower. We're playing monocolored at this point, so what's the point of even playing this? So I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Poison Dart Frog, I didn't know this was in the deck, kind of surprised to see that there, but it's alright. It's probably better in Limited than it would be in Commander, so I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis. Here's a Locust again, once again. I'm taking all the Locusts out, I'm just putting Deserts instead, so I probably don't need this one. Just going to swap that out for probably a Hash Up Oasis. Eureka Moment, draw 2, control land into play. It's 4 mana though. I don't know, I'd probably just swap that out. I'm going to play probably a Hash Up Oasis instead of that. Quandrous Campus, just a blue-green tap land. I'm going to swap that out for a Hash Up Oasis right here. Looks like we're down to probably the last few cards. I think these are just going to be all basic lands. Island. So 3 island, 2, 3, 4 forests. That's it. 3 islands and 4 forests. So 7 of those. I think I'm actually going to swap these out for 7 Hash Up Oasis. I think that balances out my colors a little bit better. And then here are the thick cardstock. Well, there's actually only one, the one thick cardstock commander. It's different art though. And you even have Ripple Foil tokens. That's pretty cool. This is probably going to be a Desirable Merit Lage token, I think. That is a really cool looking Hydra. Play it. Elephant. What's on back? Oh, so the backside is not Ripple Foil? There's no Ripple Foil Sand Warrior? Are you kidding me? Why? Why is only one side of them foil? It's kind of weird. Oh, there's 2 cards left, actually. I have to choose which commander I want. I didn't even read this secondary commander. It's 4 mana, 2/4 elemental. When it enters the battlefield, to make a 1/1 green forest dryad land creature token for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone this game. At the beginning of each combat, land creatures you control get +X till end of turn where X is its power. We've seen decks kind of similar themed where they carry about making land creatures, and those ones didn't excite me too much. This one doesn't either, so I'm going to swap this card out for a Hash Up Oasis, and then that just leaves this, which would be our commander. But honestly, I would rather just play a Hash Up Oasis. So that was a look at the Tricky Terrain Collector's Edition Commander deck, and I'm pretty happy with the upgrades. I think the deck is going to run a lot better. Like, precons at this point, they're generally quite good right out of the box, but there's always room for upgrades, and I think that the few upgrades that we did here are going to make a big difference. So I'm looking forward to playing this deck. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I do actually have some of the other Collector's Edition decks. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those. There's a This one right here, the Graveyard Overdrive. Planning to do something with that as well. I'm going to upgrade that one too, but this one, yeah, I'm happy with how this turned out. So let me know what you think of the deck, what you think of upgrades. Oh, what I would probably want to do is try and find room for maybe like... I would want to throw a Hash Up Oasis in here. I think that could probably help out a lot. But, you know, let me know what you think and how you've upgraded this deck, or if you have a similarly themed deck, maybe there's some cards in there that I could put in it. Anyway though, if you're still watching, thanks for watching. It'd be cool if you can like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. I'd encourage everyone to come join my Discord server. You can find a link to that in the video description below. And in the video description, you can also find a link to my store, the Snug and Dave store, where you can buy custom playmats and tokens, which we do ship worldwide. And also, I'd just like to take a moment to thank all the patrons that support me on Patreon. But otherwise though, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.